All right, while these guys are chatting in the back, trying to figure out, all of you've been at these events before and won some awards and judged a few, and you know, the pitches, they're starting their journey. You guys have all had your own version of some kind of an exit. It's been meaningful to you in some way, maybe responsibility in a big company, maybe a big financial exit, maybe you're still very heavily involved in the company that got exited in some way. We're going to try something different. You guys have done pitches before, and you've had somebody kind of time you. So I need a volunteer from the audience that's going to time me for 90 seconds. Can I get a hand raised? Somebody in the front rows? A volunteer. I need a 90-second timer somewhere. Raise your hand. Okay, there you are. The lady who was raising her hand right there. In 90 seconds, you're going to start clapping. Each of these entrepreneurs are going to be invited to give their pitch. Not their pitch, but they're going to tell their story. What their company is, what they do, what they raised, what they exited, whatever they want. 90 seconds each, then you hear their story, and then we'll talk about their journey. So, are you ready? Nat Parker, give us your story. 90 seconds.
Okay. Hello. Is this working? Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Nat. I'm the CEO of Movil here in North America, and I founded a company here in town called Globe Sherpa. And we made mobile ticketing for public transit really easy. You could buy your bus ticket from your smartphone. So if anyone has used the TriMet Tickets app here, we've got about 260,000 monthly users. It's no more BS using a ticket vending machine, no more cash in your pocket. You can buy and use it directly from your smartphone, and then we're able to give TriMet and other transit agencies great data about how the system is being used, create economic efficiencies, and how they collect money from all of us. So I grew that business in 39 months, raised $3.8 million, got up to about 27 people, and actually sold to Daimler, to the inventor of the automobile, who wants to rethink and reinvent urban mobility. That was 2.5 years ago, and since that time, they kept me on as the CEO of a newly formed mobility business called Movil. We're about 127 people today, growing and really trying to redefine how you get from point A to point B for the future.
God, he nailed it with 5 seconds left for the next person. How about Nat Parker, the exit to multinational Daimler right here. By the way, the way this works, I can't see very well. When the time is up, you got to start clapping. Everyone else is going to clap. I know, he gave some time back, but if the time goes up,
20 seconds. What?
Exactly. When 90 second gets hit, start clapping, if it does get hit. Sarah Poole, you're on.
Hello, my name is Sarah Poole. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Canvas, which is a healthy beverage focused on prebiotic fiber and improving the microbiome. The backstory with Canvas is that AB InBev, the largest brewer in the world, had a ton of spent grain laying around. In fact, it's about 3 million tons of spent grain that go to waste or are fed to livestock annually. And a food scientist there said, hey, this has got to be turned into something really beneficial for human consumption. There's just a ton of fiber and protein being left over. Let's go feed some people. So for the past 2.5 years, we've been hard at work at figuring out a technology to save spent grain from the beer brewing process, which is actually almost an impossible objective, which is why we haven't seen anybody else accomplish it yet. So finally, we've developed and brought to market the technology that solves that problem on a small scale. In Canvas, the beverage is the first rendition of a product, a consumer packaged good, to bring this amazing nutrition to the public. Prior to that, I was the co-founder and CEO of Pacific Superfood Snacks, which is an organic snack food company that later got bought out by Made in Nature in 2014.
Very nice. Still have time to go, I'm guessing, right? Wow, these guys are obviously well-practiced, well-nuanced, because they've been on the stage a few times before. I saw you might need one of those, and I'll leave this here in case one of you guys want it. We're doing pretty good on time, I see. Wow. So this is what happens when you've kind of done it 100 times and you've grown it and you've exited. Steve Marsh, take it away, 90 seconds.
Thank you. So normally this is about a 15-minute story, so I'll try to cut it down. So in 2001, I started an electronic communications archiving company called Smarsh. My team's based over here on the side. We archive electronic communications, so email, text messages, social media, generally for highly regulated companies. You can imagine those in financial services and government have to keep electronic records for many, many years. They have to be able to search them and reproduce them for legal reasons. and regulatory examinations. So not the sexiest of businesses, but it's grown incredibly nicely over the last 17 years or so. I started it in my apartment in Brooklyn in 2001. In 2007, we took our first outside private equity investment, sold part of the company. At that point, raised about $11 million. Sold another part of the business in 2011 to a public company called Quest Software that eventually got bought by Dell within months. So we were owned by Dell for a short period of time, did another deal, and were bought back into another private equity firm about 2 years after that, then sold another piece of the business to a different private equity firm in 2016. So have had the benefit of seeing a lot of different transactions, in some cases where we had inbound interest, in other cases where we were actually going out and trying to sell pieces of the business. And at this point, we've got offices around the globe and have had literally hundreds of millions of dollars invested in the business, and
Sweet.
happy to be here.
All right, that's Steve Marsh. Marsh, multiple exits, serial entrepreneur, reinvesting in Portland in many ways. Travis Rush, Sightbox, take it away, 90 seconds. Folks, can I get some more water up here for these folks? Here you go.
Hi, my name is Travis Rush, founder and CEO of Sightbox. We are a new type of vision care for people who wear contact lenses. People sign up with us. We manage the entire process from start to finish. They sign up. We find them an eye doctor near where they live. We book the appointment. We manage the entire healthcare process, all the revisits and reschedules, dealing with trial lenses, get the prescription from the doctor, and then we fill that throughout the rest of the year with whatever contacts the doctor prescribes. And at the end of the year, when their prescription's expiring, we set them back up to go in for their next annual visit. And so we started I started in around 2012. We took in our first outside investment money in 2015. I was actually on this stage in the top 5 last year. And this last September, we exited to Johnson & Johnson. They let us stay here in Portland, and we've grown from, at that point, 17 people to 50 in the last 6 months, and we've doubled our membership base.
Sweet, look at that. Even got seconds to spare there. Travis Rush, Sightbox, exited to Johnson & Johnson. All right, I'm going to tone down my own energy a little bit. All of you have grown companies, raised companies, scaled them in one manner or the other, had some big multinational exits or local exits or private equity injection. People talk about Portland and the Bay Area and VCs. We have a record number of venture capitalists here over the last 2 days. How hard is it moving forward? Is this a difficult time for Portland in terms of raising money and hiring talent? A couple of thoughts from any of you on those subjects.
Sure, I'll start. So from my point of view, I think it's actually much easier to find talent here in Portland than it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We've had the benefit of a lot of people migrating from the Bay Area and other parts of the country to Portland. I think the quality of life here makes it an attractive place for people to work as well, and it's become quite a bit easier, despite the fact that there are more and more companies being formed to compete for that talent. I think there's always going to be a shortage, much like there is across the country, but the situation is definitely getting better. I think it's easier to attract high-level talent. It's easier to get people to relocate here for jobs, whereas 10 years ago, if I tried to recruit an executive to come to Portland, they'd say, hey, I love the opportunity, but unfortunately I can't uproot my family, or I can't change my life to move there if things don't work out. There's no second job for me, or there's no job for my significant other. So it's become much easier in that sense. I think it's also become a much easier place to raise money if you want to start a new business. Years ago, we didn't have all of the investment vehicles and angel investors that we do today. So it's a pretty nice place to cultivate a new business.
Make sense? Sarah?
I don't have nearly as much experience with the investors here, only 3 years worth, but even in that short period of time, I've been blown away by the networking and support that this city has evolved into just in that short window. So I echo what Steve is saying. I'm amazed and very proud to be part of the startup community in Portland, and I myself, and I'm sure all these guys, I want to help it grow in any way we can. So it's fantastic.
Anything to add on raising money in Portland or hiring from your perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I couldn't agree more. Portland is an amazing community. We've been in New York the past year and a half. And we were in Bend before that as well, which is another amazing community, super supportive. And a lot of the challenges that we faced in New York, trying to get the technology up and running and finding other partners to network with, other entrepreneurs, other founders, it was just not as easy. And it's like Portland is such an amazing community. There's so much support. There's so many resources. If you need to find capital, you can go out and find capital. There's somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and it may not even take that long to do it. Or if you have a burning question that your business needs to answer really quickly, there's somebody that you can find in a day who can really help propel your business from A to B. And the same, honestly, from a startup perspective, from a bootstrapping perspective, it's almost impossible to start a business now in New York or San Francisco or all these major cities where the cost is just insane. It's still somewhat reasonable here to have people come in and move in and help you get your business launched and be a part of growing a startup from the ground. I think this is still one of the few cities left where you can actually do that, bootstrap in a real way. So it's pretty cool place.
Nice. Travis, question for you. You had a phenomenal exit to a storied multinational in Johnson & Johnson Vision. What are some decisions you think you made early on that made it either a snap for J&J or was a difficult sell for them? How did that, as you reflect on that exit, what do you think you did? What do you think you really nailed?
So for me, I've actually been in the eye care space for a very long time, 15 years actually, and my father and sister are both optometrists, so I knew the industry really well. So I think what really worked for us, and actually I can just regurgitate what they said when I finally had a meeting with them in Los Angeles with a bunch of their global people. They sat me down and they said, look, we've looked at all of the people in your space. You seem to be the only one that really understands what the problem is. And that was what sold the deal. So I think my advice is make sure that you have very, very clearly defined your goal. Don't try to create problems to solve. Find the problems that are already there and go get them. People will notice if you're doing it right.
Sweet. Nat, going to turn to you now. So, hard-charging PSU grad, co-founded Globe Sherpa. Now you're a senior executive at one of the most, at the inventor of the automobile, at Daimler. I got to believe that that's kind of night and day in terms of kind of running your show versus being, a rising star in that multinational. What was life like pre-exit and what's it like now?
Well, pre-exit, I would say it was a glorified shit show. It was, day and night, just constantly going after it. It was a fight for survival. And I think that existential angst that you have as a startup, it's precious. It's something you have to hold on to. And I think it animates you and it gives you real passion to go after the impossible. Today, we have a bigger vision and a much bigger platform to reinvent the space, but we also have a beautiful office. We have great salaries. We have fantastic premium healthcare. I had one of my employees yesterday saying, I remember the healthcare from last time. It was like disaster insurance. It was like a $1,500 deductible, awful. So there are different ways that you look at this, but what I can say is that you have to hold on to the precious moments of being a starving startup because they're fleeting, and that time is magical, and it really gives you that hunger and that desire to grow. Where I am today, my vision and what I want to accomplish is it's much larger and it's much bigger. And to Daimler's credit, they've empowered us and given us the freedom, the runway, the capital to do that. So I feel like I've been blessed. I have both sides of this. I had the real startup experience, and now they've given me really a huge opportunity to help reinvent an enormous space that today is just changing and crushing. One last comment.
Please.
When I raised money in 2012, I told people, we're going to go work with public transportation. And investors said, excuse me? Are you, you're going to raise money to do something with government and with public transit? Today, the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Didis, everyone is going after it. So you also have to be precise with your timing and think about where you are, going after the market.
Nice. Sarah, Nat, question. There's, as I said, every year this event draws more and more venture capital and private equity types that come to Portland from out of state. They contact us to say, hey, let us know about those off the radar companies that people don't know about. We want a piece of the action. Some of them are here in the audience today, and others will be hearing about the stories that are written from this event. What message would you give to those VCs and PE firms looking at Portland in terms of what they might be missing, why they are not here more often, why their offices aren't here? What are they missing in terms of Portland and the companies and the germination of those ideas that you should tell them?
I'll take it, sure. So I think recently we've seen a lot more interest from venture capital and private equity firms coming into Portland and into Oregon. I think they're starting to recognize that there is a large crop of companies that are growing to a size where it is interesting to the private equity firms. I think the local venture capital community is probably able to seed a lot of investments and to get a lot of companies going here. But what we have now is hundreds of companies that are getting to a point where maybe they will be of interest to large private equity firms. And I think for years, those large private equity firms have avoided coming here because the size of the organizations has not been significant enough for them to put enough money to work. And that's starting to change. We're seeing the larger investors coming in, able to make investments of the size that's meaningful to them. So you see the activity start to pick up, more and more firms from the Bay Area, New York, coming out here, making regular visits, talking to companies, trying to build relationships. So I think it's really for everyone just a matter of being patient and waiting to see how it plays out.
I would say to me there's a certain irony about Portland. Like, a lot of people come here because they don't actually want to have a giant house or a giant thing. They kind of like settling into this more humble and kind of sustainable lifestyle. And I think that there's the potential that was manifested in business and in entrepreneurship. I think that's changing, though, and I think that there's a higher degree of ambition and growth among the startup community today. I think we're going to see bigger exits, and I think the money is coming to support that.
Please.
Yeah, no, I would say as well, like, Oregon is known to be this maker type state. People are doing it not necessarily starting out because they want to be number one and have a $600 million, $1 billion exit. They're doing it because they truly, genuinely love the beer or the food or whatever it is that they're making and creating. And that innovation is so rare. It's like our whole state is like this incubator of incredible ideas. And that's why you have everybody looking in saying, well, like, crap, our industry's getting massively disrupted. We can't do it. We've tried. We're trying like left and right, and we're moving so slow and stumbling over our own feet and can't figure it out. But man, there's like some sort of passion that's happening over there and some really cool ideas happening over there. So in a way, it is like the wild, wild west still in Oregon enough. And then there's people who are starting to shift like this, that the dollar signs aren't a bad thing. It means impact on a like much larger level. So it's a really beautiful merging.
Yeah, I'll add a short note to that. One of the things that was very interesting about Johnson & Johnson is they don't currently have a presence in Oregon or Washington. And once they came out here, so a huge part of their global team came to Portland to meet the Sightbox team and get to know everybody. They were so impressed with this city that most of them had never been here before. They have allowed us to stay here, and they want us to grow here. They tripled the size of our space, made it a 5-year lease. They're planning on planting feet here, and they want to grow in the Northwest, which I think is awesome. It says a lot.
Sweet. That's great to hear. So you have had the benefit of many pitch coaches and mentors and advisors. We have hundreds of entrepreneurs in the audience today. 70 out of 75 of them pitch their hearts out, and they're wondering whether they should stick with it or not. Nowadays, being at a startup that didn't make it is a badge of honor, and you do learn so much. But in the last couple of seconds, just each of you, maybe starting with Nat, did you get some words of wisdom from somebody, or would you like to offer entrepreneurs in the audience that are wondering, should they stick with it or not? Some words of wisdom, about a half a minute each.
Well, of course you got to stick with it. Yeah, go after it. Be hungry. Get it. I have a famous story. I had sort of given up. I hadn't been able to raise the money I thought I could. Wrote a note to my friends and family. Thanks for your support. I just haven't been able to make it. And I was riding my bike downtown one day coming to a concert, and I saw a dude driving a yellow Tesla Roadster. This is back before everyone had a Tesla, but he's driving along, and I said, oh my God, this must be an internet millionaire. He's driving a Tesla. And I went up to him and I said, hey, I'm Nat. I'm the CEO of Globe Sherpa. We sell mobile tickets for public transit. Do you want to fund my startup? And he looked at me and he laughed and he hit the gas or he hit the electricity and he took off. And, I'm like, ah, shit. And so I ride my bike, ride, come up to him, lights yellow, pull up, and I'm like, no, I'm serious, for real. I'm trying to raise, blah, blah, blah. He goes, have you ever heard of ClarisWorks? And I said, hell yeah, I used that when I was a kid. It's like a desktop publishing program. He said, I'm Scott Holdaway. I built that. I sold it to Apple. Here's my card. Give me a call. We had breakfast the next week. He wrote me a check for $50,000. So you never know what's going to happen.
You
Don't
never
give up.
know. Sarah.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's so difficult when you embark on this new journey of creating a startup and the dream, and you're an entrepreneur, and then you realize that there's all these challenges and obstacles each and every step of the way. And I think that piece of it's not talked about enough, that's just a normal piece of of life, right? That's just life in general. It's just each and every moment you face a new puzzle, and if you do want to be all in on something, if you do want to take that risk to create something absolutely awesome that is going to provide people with a ton of value, then it's just figuring out how you're going to solve each new puzzle. And so that's how we like to think of it, is okay, we're coming up against something that seems insurmountable, or maybe it's even something small and it just sucks, and but you just have to deal with it, and you will figure it out. It's like you just stick with it, and it will resolve. So that would be my only advice, is to keep solving those puzzles and to be all in. That's another piece I think that people are straddling that line all the time, and it's hard. We were talking backstage, once you've had a successful exit, then you're suddenly seen as this really successful person, even though almost kind of internally you see all the failures you had along the way. But it's being as long as you're straddling that line of should I do it? Should I pursue this, or go back to the cushy salary and all the huge benefits and this life that feels so good and so comfortable? It's the all-in piece is where the magic happens in anything. Again, it's not just business, it's just life. It's be all in, always be all in. That's where the alignment happens. That's where the magic happens. That's where the people start flooding in. That's where the innovation starts happening. So those would be my two big things.
I love it. Thank you.
I think I'll probably have similar advice. I think for me, there were similar stories of not being able to raise money, days where, felt like I'd just been beat up, turned down. I think the only answer is you just keep persevering and get up every day and, work through, issue after issue, obstacle after obstacle, and eventually, the obstacles become bigger, the challenges become greater, and you just have more confidence that you're gonna figure out a way to move forward. Whether it's raising money, pivoting your business model. If you can't go back to the cushy life, or you can't go back to the comfortable job, I think it makes it easier. You only have one direction you can go, and that is forward. So for me, that was kind of easy. I was unemployed, couldn't find funding, and said, okay, the only way I'm gonna do anything is to keep plowing ahead with this business, and I needed to pay the bills. There were days when, I can say this now because it's probably 15 years ago, we had major database failures to the point where we got on the phone with Microsoft's engineers, and they were impressed by the size of our database. So, we want to put some funding into this to maybe study what you're doing. But anyway, we had a major failure, and they literally got their attorneys on the phone to read us our rights and to tell us, hey, we're not taking any liability for what's about to happen. We're going to try to help you solve this problem, but you may not have a business by the time you're done. And you have those days where you're just crossing your fingers and you don't know what's going to happen, but just keep plowing ahead.
Perseverance. All right, Travis, bring us home.
Yeah, for me, I had some of the similar stories. I remember 3 specific nights laying in bed with my wife trying to figure out if I was going to get to pay payroll or not. And those are scary moments when you're like, is it over? Am I going to make it? Let's keep going. I know we can get more money. And I think the thing that I learned, even though I'd been in the industry for as long as I had, it didn't mean that I knew everything. I had to listen to my team, people I hired. We fought a lot in the office, not with fists, but we fought. But I learned a lot about myself and my ability to let go of things and let the people I've hired lead me in a direction I may not have gone in that might be better. And I think as a founder, I think that's probably the hardest thing to do, is this baby you've created to start letting other people in to help you make it better. I think that is the only way to let it accelerate, is to let go.
Love it. You all have been very generous with your time on a Friday afternoon to come and talk to us. You've been great in reinvesting and making yourself available to the tech community. Thank you so much. How about a huge round of applause for the Exited? Thank you.